not bad. Okay, I've got, this is a diagram for the landing gear, and as you can see, the rubber band goes around two shafts and then over top of the axle. This is what it looks like, and I was only able to fit one rubber band on here. They give you like 8 of them, actually 10 of them, and I was able to fit one on there doubled up. And I don't hold out much hope for this setup, but it's assembled the way they're instructing you to. I think what I will do once this fails is I'll have my wife 3D print out a solid rubber block the same shape as this plate and put that on there with some longer screws here and just have that hold this axle, give it a little give. But like I say, I don't hold out much hope for that. This is how the wheel fits. I've got some room here for another collar on the axle. Well, we'll put it together and see what happens, and you know, when it fails, we'll make adjustments. So next thing we're doing is going to put the horizontal stab on. They tell you to use thin CA, and I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to use epoxy. And so I've already cut the covering off on the bottom. This stuff is quite sticky. Covering's already off the vertical stab, and they just lock in, and then it locks into the fuselage. Like that. Now all we got to do is just measure and make sure this is straight that way, and then this is vertical. And so got my my epoxy measured out. Just got to mix it up. I have to mix a little more for the vertical stab. Right from that former, 29.5. Just a tiny bit. Okay, that looks about as close as it's going to get. Now I just need a little more epoxy for that stab. Okay, that's set. I'm going to just let that harden up, and the tail feathers are set. And on to the next thing, we start putting the control surfaces on. And we'll move on. Alright, I've got the aileron servos installed. They're just standard servos. And I still have to do the linkages, but just a 6-inch extension, and they can reach the end of the wing. The only thing I'm not happy with this setup is they have a little hatch here with 4 screws to access the wing bolt for the top wing. And so I think I'm going to put in a little latch so I can easily release that. But the other thing here is this is the dummy engine. Now this is all vacuum formed cylinder heads, and they each one had a little ring of plywood that went under it, and then it glued down to this piece of plywood, and then you put your exhaust pipe on, which is really nice, painted and everything. But then you need to, if I can find it, you take these little pieces, this piece of hose, and then you're supposed to cut them up and put them on the exhaust pipe. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6. Yeah. And then this is get screwed onto here. And I still need to drill the holes for the motor. Get that done. I'm making up all thread rod right now for the standoffs. And they'll go in there like that. So let me get that situated, and I'll show you what we've done. I'm getting ready to drill my holes for the mounting the motor. And all I did was just photocopy the X plate for the motor, and lined it up on the firewall, taped it in place, and then just did some center punching. Anyway, get those holes drilled out, and we'll get the motor installed. Okay, motor is mounted. I got a master air screw wood prop on here, a scimitar prop. This is my motor mount setup. So just the 4 dowels, get the right clearance. This cowl is fiberglass. Doesn't fit so great, but it is what it is. Alright, so the speed controller. This is the Mantis 65 amp. And I think I'm just going to put it right there. And hopefully get some cooling from the cowl. Put the battery connector through the firewall. And that'll be that. And this is an 18.8 prop. Recommended is 1710, so 18.8 should be okay. It's a gas prop though, so it won't be as efficient as a electric prop. And we'll just put it on the amp meter and see what kind of amps we pull, and we'll go from there. If I have to, I'll get an electric prop for it, but for right now, I'll use what I have. Okay, back to work. Alright, so I started putting the wing center section together, and As you can see here, this is how they want you to bolt it together. One thing I ran into is you really need to put these cabanes on first before you put it on the fuselage. Otherwise, you just can't tighten the doggone thing. So I put, you can see how tight the clearance is there. Little screw, and I substituted a lock nut for the hardware they give you. They don't give you lock nuts. And you have to leave this piece out until you tighten it. This is the other front cabane. It slides in here. There's another one that slides in here like that. And then there's some set screws that go in to hold those in place. So yeah, it's there's a lot of little pieces, and you have to do things in the right sequence, otherwise you end up going backwards and starting over. So anyway, that's it, and I'm about ready to mount this center section. Alright guys, so I've been working on the D7 and started moving the servos around. These brand new Savic 1256 servos that have been sitting around for a few years in the box, and what I found out was when I move it, you hear that squeal? That is hard to see, but right here is the motor that drives the servo, and right at the very bottom of it is a little tiny hole for the bushing, the motor bushing, and it's just dried out from sitting. So I've already done three of them like this. So I just put a little oil in there, and then I put a little super lube in there, synthetic grease, to fix that problem. And the other servos are fine now, no problem. So I'll do this one, and then we'll test it again. All right, I put a little lube on in the servo, on the motor bushing, and now when you activate the servo, no screeching noise. Put a little super lube synthetic grease on top of that, and now what I'll do is I'll take the motor, I'll flip it over, get into the gears underneath it here, and put a little, some super lube in there and make sure those gears are lubed up. Okay, this is the other side of the servo. There's the gear set. I'm just going to move this a little bit so you get the idea. But I put a little super lube in there, and as the servo warms up, that grease will flow inside the case there and get around to everything that needs to be lubricated. So that's fixed, and we'll put everything back together. Alright, so I'm in the middle of setting up the dummy engine, and this is the exhaust pipe. They want you to cut holes in and then shove this tube in the hole and glue it into the cylinders over here. So just like that. Anyway, in the process of drilling a hole out in this exhaust pipe, which is fiberglass and it's painted, thing split right in half. It wasn't glued very well, so I had to glue it back together. Of course, that made a mess, which I had to sand down and smooth everything out, and now I'll have to repaint it, so the nice paint job they did on it will be gone. So that's one thing to look out for, guys, when you put this thing together. If you're going to drill the holes in it, put some CA inside the pipe, or even on the, I don't know, on the outside, make a mess. And make sure it's glued good, or drill the holes in the cylinders and then just surface glue them to this exhaust pipe, which I don't know how well that would hold up, but might be a better option than trying to drill holes in this thing and have it split open on you. So anyway, that's that with that, but I'll get this thing spray painted and then glued together, and I'll show you how it turned out. I've got the engine glued together, the dummy engine, and I had to repaint the exhaust pipe because it broke in half, and I had to re-glue it. But there's the little pieces of hose that you glue into the cylinder heads, and I glued them in place in the cylinders from the inside while I had the engine off the thing here, and that's hard to see, but and I glued the rubber hose into the exhaust pipe from the underside so you don't see the glue joint, and if it needs to be more secure, I can add glue from top here. And so now what I've got is, these are the machine guns that come with the model. These are very detailed, but then there's a second set they set. These are plastic, not detailed at all. This is the mounting piece, and they're supposed to go in there like that, but they don't fit. So it's going to have to be modified to fit in there. Anyway, that's the way it should go. It looks really nice. I like the detail on these guns. Let me modify that stuff, get that installed and glued in place, and I'll show you how that turns out. Overall, it's a good looking model. Not an easy model to assemble, that's for sure. The center section was difficult, and a lot of little pieces, a lot of little fiddly bit pieces to put together, but overall, it's a good looking model. We'll see how it flies. Okay, I've got the machine guns glued in place, and as you can see here, I had to Dremel into the deck here to get the mount to fit on both sides of the gun. And so they're glued in place. I got them as even as I could. They weren't exactly perfect. The engine looks nice. I've got the pilot just sitting here. He's pretty heavy. So I think I want to check the balance before I actually glue him in place, and see how it turns out. So, on to the next thing. I'm going to show you guys how we're going to hide the wires under here. Okay, so they want you to run the servo wires through a small hole in the center section and then in through the fuselage. And they want you to do it with a Y cable, so I prefer to have the aileron separated in case I need to add in some aileron differential. And if you don't have separate channels, then you have to do it mechanically, which can end up being a pain. So I ran separate wires. You can see the other one right here. Now they give you these pieces of covering, and this is not iron-on covering at all. None of this is. It's adhesive covering. It's sticky on the inside. If you put your finger on it on the inside of the plane, it's sticky like adhesive tape or something. And every time I get near it with the heat gun, it doesn't shrink. It kind of wrinkles up. So I'm not sure what it is, but they give you extra swaths of it, which I cut a couple of pieces. Now this is so you can also hide the wires for the landing gear, like that. But what I'm going to use, and I don't show you this, is I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it to hide my wires on the. So basically, I'm going to tack that on there. I'm going to put the wire in place. I'm going to wrap around it with this covering. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out, but we'll give it a try and see how it works. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, and then I'll probably cut a little piece there. You can see the covering is tearing a little bit. So have these pieces here I can cut a piece out of to cover that up, and hopefully that keeps it from getting any worse. All right, back to it. All right, I've got my wires covered and hidden, and as you can see right there, that's where the wire comes out, and comes out there, goes into the center section. And I use some of the covering they provide to cover the little hole there. Hopefully there is an edge there. Hopefully the air doesn't get underneath that. This is where the wire comes out, so I'll try and use another piece to cover this up a little more. Possible I could make another hole right here just to get that wire out of the way, and then just patch this little hole right there. But this is the hole they provide. So I have to look on the inside and see if there's a former in there. Oh, well, I'll figure that out. So anyway, the wire is hidden. Hopefully that adhesive covering stays in place, and getting closer to the being done. All right, guys, here we are at the field with the D7 ready for its first flight, and it's one of the nice warm weekends in October. So field's a little busy today, but anyway, we're set to go. So let me just show you a few details. This is how I set my servos up. In the book, they want you to put all the shafts in line with each other. And I put a plate in to cover up the hole that was there and put my receiver right there. Now this covering is adhesive covering. Luckily the radio antenna sticks right to it. So I have one going that way and one pointed down. I have the watt meter set up here. I have an 1810 on it to try out, because I had an 18.8 on it, and we pulled 44 amps at 1066 watts. The motor is capable of 1700 watts. The speed controller is capable of 65 amps. So I put a 1810 on it to try and bump the power up a little bit, the pull. So this is how the tail grouping turned out. You have the little flying wires. You have your typical 2 servo elevators, and then the tail wheel, which is not scale, but it works. So, all right, I'm gonna fire this thing up and see what kind of power we're getting out of that watt meter. Put that out of the way. Canopy. So, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this and hold the phone at the same time. I should be able to do it this way, though. All right. See what kind of power we got out of it. Didn't sound like much. Okay. Watt power 955. Amps 40.8. I actually got higher amps with the smaller prop, less pitch, which is strange. And anyway, yeah, I don't know if it'll fly on this setup, but I can get it out there and taxi it around and see how it does, do some bunny hops with it. But we'll give it a try. But all right, let's get to that. All right, guys, what I did is I switched from the HRB batteries to the SMCs, and I put a little higher voltage. Oh, let's see what kind of power I pull out of it this time, because didn't feel like it was pulling very well at all. That sounded much better. Okay. 43 amps. 1048 watt power. Still, it's a little less than I had before in the other prop, which is weird, because this is a higher pitch, and I didn't bring the other prop with me, so anyway, we'll have to just deal with what we got. Alright, I guess the next thing to do is do some taxi tests and see how it goes. Alright guys, we're good to go. Put a lot of weight in the front here, working with the other club members to get the balance right. We're just gonna run it around on the runway and see what happens. Oh, tail came up. Well, it doesn't seem tail heavy.
No, it doesn't.
That's full power though. Yeah, it's not tail heavy. It is rolling to the left. Now we're straight. Not bad. I think that's almost half throttle there, so it's not. I think I need to do some prop work yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it noisy? They're always noisy on the gear.
All right, guys, we're back in the shop, and I'm going to do the final thoughts on this airplane. We had a successful maiden flight, and big shout out to the guys at the club, Howard Bass and Chris Baker, the electric crew out there. They built some really great electric airplanes, and so their knowledge on how to set this up was most valuable to me. And I ran it with 2 6 cells. Definitely need to weight in the front, and I had to add more lead in the front quite a bit. And so with that, the balance point is 85 millimeters back on the wing, and we balanced it almost dead even. You definitely have to add some weight to the front with this setup, and 2 6 cells in there. With 2 4 cells would be even lighter, so you'd have to put more weight in it. I would recommend to you guys to build a motor box. This is from another electric airplane. This way you could put your lead inside the box. You have a good place to put it. And that'll give you maybe better results than the 4 standoffs that I did. Definitely need a little bit more right thrust. The firewall doesn't have any in it, so I'm going to add a couple of washers to this, give it a little more right thrust. The airplane is a very nice looking airplane. It's definitely, they say it's a intermediate skill level, and it's definitely all of that. You definitely need some skill at building model airplanes to complete this kit. So it is a very nice looking kit. If you wanted to scale it out with more detail, you can certainly do that, make it even more scale. The flying qualities of it are typical World War I stuff. You definitely have to fly with a rudder on it. And I think changing the speed controller to, there's an optional 80 amp for it. I think changing to that and maybe running 10 cells or 12 cells, two sixes in series would be a better option, get more power out of it. I definitely, on this setup, I definitely need to prop it up more. This is a 1810, maybe go to an 1812 or a 2012 pitch to pull a bit more watts and amps out of it. But overall, this is a very nice ARF. Like I say, the skill level is definitely, you definitely need some building experience to build it. But other than that, it's a very nice airplane. So we'll be going back to the Stearman build for the next few videos, and so stay tuned for that. Happy flying, everybody.
Not bad.